Hello, dear students. I'm Olena Vartanova with my course Public Communications and Public Relations. And today we'll talk about the communication process and its elements. Last time we told that communication is the process of intentionally transferring information from one person or group to another persons or groups. So the communication is the process to exchange the information between two or more subjects. And the communication process help us to realize the main communication functions, such as managerial, informative, emotional, the kind that causes emotion, the factual, related to established contact, and other functions of communication. In this slide, you can see the main elements of communication process. In business, we define business communication process like the way by which sender and receiver exchange essential information. It includes a few sequential parts or organized components. The communication process occurs here 6 phases of 6 phases containing 9 elements. First, the sender has thoughts as thoughts. Second, the sender encoding the thoughts. Third, the sender transmits the message through exact media. Fourth, the receiver sends his answer to the sender as a feedback. These figures show us the communication process, which contains 9 elements. Sender and receiver are two most important parties. Message and media are the two most important communication functions. And the last element is the noise, which interrupts the flow of communication. The first element of communication process is sender. Sender is the person or party who sends a message or idea to the receiver. Sender is the source of any communication, and communication takes place based on him. For example, I transfer a message about public communication and communication process. So I'm a sender. Other examples of sender are a company that broadcasts advertisements, a textbook, a politician at the debate, a journalist, a scientist at the conference, etc. Next element of communication process is message. Message is a set of symbols that the sender transmits to the receiver through the media of channel. We exchange messages in oral, written, and symbolic form. In our example, my message is information about the elements of the communication process. Other messages can be a company slogan, a scientist hypothesis, a radio message, a text in a book, TV news, a politician's pre-elections program, and other. Next element of communication process is media. Media refers to the specific communication channel through which the message moves from the sender to receiver. It bridges the gap between the sender and the receiver. We use different types of media for transmitting messages like letters, newspapers, radio, TV, telephone, fax, email, social media, etc. In our etc., we use a special channel to transfer video lecture. The next element is encoding. Encoding means the process of putting thoughts into symbolic form, which can be understood by another person to whom the sender wants to communicate the idea. In other words, encoding means converting the idea into understandable message. In our example, ARM assembles words, illustration into a video lecture and convey the intended message with the help of technical means, my pedagogical skills, and personal charisma. The encoder uses a medium to send the message, a phone call, email, text message, face-to-face meeting, or other communication tools. The level of conscious thoughts that goes into encoding message may vary. The encoder should also take into account any noise that might interfere with their message, such as other messages, distractions, or influences. The next element of communication process is decoding. The audience decodes or interprets the message for themselves. Decoding is the process of turning communication into thoughts and appropriate behavior. Thus, decoding is the process of interpreting a message to arrive at the sender's meaning. Communications will be more effective if decoding match clearly with encoding. In our example, it can be if you have seen the previous lecture, understand English, and can interpret the content of the lecture. Other examples of decoding are, you can see an video and understand its message, speak to a person in a foreign language and understand their response, listen to an online lecture and get a link and internet signal to assess it. Next important elements of communication process are receiver, response, and feedback. Receiver is the person or party who receives the message sent by other party or sender. In our example, receiver is the audience who watches the video lecture. Response is the reaction of the receiver after being exposed to the message. It's the action or reaction of the receiver after getting the message. The reaction can be immediate or delayed, favorable or unfavorable. In our example, the response to the video lecture may be the acquisition and new knowledge about the public communication, the desire to join other lectures and participate in other events of international virtual mobility next time. And feedback. The observation of the receiver's response is called feedback. In other words, the part of the receiver's response communicated back to the sender is called feedback. Actually, it's the amount of response to the receiver that reaches to the senders. Overviewing the receiver's response is called feedback. In other words, the part of the receiver's response sent to the sender is called feedback. In fact, it's the number of receiver responses that reach the sender. In our example, feedback can be you desire to participate in virtual mobility program or in the future, or your feedback on the course page. Feedback is extremely important for effective two-way communications. This allows the sender to evaluate the effectiveness of the message. Next element of communication process is noise. Noise is the unplanned static or distortion during the communication process that results in the receivers getting a different message than the sender transfers. It's the disturbance occurred in the process of transferring the information. Noise may occur in any of the steps of the communication process. In our example, the audience of the student may have poor internet signal reception or may be distracted by family members or friends while watching the lecture. In this slide, you can see the sources of noise in communication process, and these distortions can be related to the sender, recipient, or with other elements of communication process, for example, with communicator. And this noise can have two causes: correct or incorrect use of language and selective perception due to cultural factors. And next, it's noise related to communication channel. Here, the noises is formed from radio interference, flickering pictures on the TV screen, and typographical defects in the newspaper. So these noises we can recognize quite easily. Or next group of noises connected to selective memorization. There are selective perception, selective attention, and message recipient. So the public communication process is the sequence of some steps of elements, and the communicator or sender must take initiatives to magnify each sequence to make the communication process effective and meaningful. So this is all for today. In next slide, you can see the literature related to this topic, and appreciate for your attention. See you. Bye.